Today I'm in Florida on vacation, and it's nice out. So, coming to you from Florida. Today we're looking at 1 Corinthians chapter 3. And Paul starts out in chapter 3 by saying, are we beginning to commend ourselves again, or do we need, like some, letters of recommendation? What they would do back then was they would have these letters of recommendation that they would come with. In fact, these false prophets, who were the ones who were accusing Paul, came with letters of recommendation, probably. And Paul says, do I need a letter saying I'm an apostle? Do I need someone, from your party to give me an official letter? No. He says, we have something better. Here's what we got. Verse 2. You yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts, known and read by everybody. You show that you are a letter from Christ, the result of our ministry, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God. Not on tablets of stone, but on the tablet of the human heart. Here's the thing. Paul says, if I got a letter, do you think Christ would sign the letter? Would Jesus put his signature on the letter? No. Jesus has put his signature on your heart. You can forge a letter. In fact, these guys, they came with forged letters oftentimes. You cannot forge the Spirit's work on the heart. It cannot be counterfeited. The work of the Spirit, you think, it's hard to tell a person, who's a Christian or not, but the fruit of the Spirit is difficult to counterfeit. What's the fruit of the Spirit? Love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. You can't fake that. Go fake a temperance. You can fake good works. You can go out and witness to people. You can preach a sermon. But go out and try to fake goodness. Fake love. Those are inner qualities. That's what was written on their heart. And that was the result of Paul's ministry there in Corinth. Mark this down. You might think that a particular person is this great preacher or something, or they're this great evangelist, or even a great Christian. The mark of their ministry, and the mark of their life, is not their eloquence or the books they've written. It's the fruit that remains. Who is there left in the wake because of them? Because of the fact that they loved Jesus and they were talking about him and following him, who's there because of them? Sometimes when I think about this, I think about my dad. And as I was growing up, I can remember there would be people in our lives who would come along and receive Christ, and they would remain. And I still know some of those people even to this day. It was fruit that remained because of a life that was putting out. And that's what we've got to have in our lives. Who is going to be in heaven because of you? Now, I'm not just talking about who you witnessed to and they made a profession of faith and, that was great, Do you know where they are now? Oh, no, I never saw them again. It was at the mall. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone that you discipled, led to Christ, discipled, and man, they grew. Maybe you didn't even lead them to Christ, but you discipled them and pushed them on. Who's in your life like that right now? And who is going to be here when you die, leading the charge for Christ? That's the proof of your ministry, and that's what Paul says. This is you guys. I don't need a letter of recommendation because you are here, and it's written with the Spirit, not on tablets. He was referring back to the Old Testament, tablets of stone. God wrote the law on tablets of stone. Now he's writing it on our hearts, and so he's going to talk about the law a little bit. He says, that makes me think about the law a little bit. Let's talk about that. He says, verse 7. Now, if the ministry that brought death, which was engraved in stone, in letters on stone, came with glory, so the Israelites could not look steadily at the face of Moses because of its glory, fading though it was. He says, even the law brought glory with it. Now, it was bringing death also. Why was the law bringing death? Because it showed us that we were falling short of God's perfect standard. And even when people trusted in it, they were still falling short of God's standard. He moves on. Verse 14. But their minds were made dull to this day. The same veil remains in the old covenant is read. It has not been removed, because only in Christ it is taken away. He says there were some things that just do not make sense about the Old Testament until you add Jesus in. But when you trust Christ, you know what happens? The Old Testament begins to make sense. And it's unveiled. But look at verse 18. And we, who with unveiled faces all reflect the Lord's glory, are being transformed into his likeness with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. What he's saying here is this. In the Old Testament, when Moses gave the law, he had this glory of God all over his face. It was amazing. And even though it was amazing, it was fading. And he had to put a veil on. Why? Because the glory was too bright? Not necessarily. Because when it faded away, the Israelites would be like, ooh, what happened to your glory? Well, first of all, it wasn't my glory anyway. In the New Testament, where's that glory? If this if this law, which brought death, it wasn't imperfect because it revealed God's perfect character, and that was why God even glory with it. But if the law came with glory, why not the new covenant with glory? He says it does. Where's the glory? The glory is in your heart. The glory is in your life. And as we are transformed by God's Spirit into glorious renewal and become more and more like Him, that is the glory of God. Isn't that cool? God's will for you is to give Him glory today by enjoying Him, by spending time with Him, by just enjoying His presence, His attributes. Enjoy His. What is God's glory? If it's not His wonderful, perfection, His attributes, what He does and how He is, enjoy that. And as you do that, you're staring into His face. Okay, you're going to be transformed to be more like Him. Well, I hope that today you've got somebody that you're breathing into spiritual life. And if you don't, ask God, Lord, who is that person for me? Who do you want me to breathe into? Who is going to be my letter of recommendation? Who is going to be the proof of my life here on earth? Well, God bless you. You guys have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.